Hello, Power Up Nation. I am Pat Council, and welcome to Designing Your Life Today. So let's get right into our topic for today. Yesterday, we talked about authenticity versus personal identity and how knowing the difference can bring you success or not. So with that being said, I did say I was going to talk about why really knowing the difference matters. And so with that being said, our topic for today is, are you working against your own potential? I can't tell you the number of people that I have talked to over the years, and they have these strong desires to achieve more, and not just for the sake of achieving more, but because what they desire to achieve, it aligns with their calling, with their purpose for being here, with the type of service they have been called to, their divine service, if you will. And I listen to them talk about how much they want to do this. And then my question is always, what's stopping you? Sometimes they say, I don't know. Sometimes I hear, well, I don't have enough confidence. And of course, the biggie is, I'm afraid. In order to get beyond the obstacles that stop you, or these internal obstacles, okay, because if you can master what's going on inside, you can conquer anything on the outside. And believe me, whatever you're called to do, nothing and no one can stop you. Even people that consciously try, and some that are doing it unconsciously, they cannot stop you if you are in alignment with the purpose you are called to serve. But here's the thing. This is why I wanted to really go a little bit further and talk about the difference, or understanding the difference between authenticity and personal identity. When you don't understand the difference, what happens is people will say, I'm just being myself, or I'm keeping it real, or I'm being real. Well, what happens is you think you're being authentic when really you're just acting out on an outdated identity. In other words, this is an identity that someone has programmed into you, either through words, through actions, in other words, requiring that you take certain actions and do certain things, or actually because there were no filters that were put up for you and you were allowed to perhaps watch anything that came on television. And a lot of the things that are on television really paint different people in the wrong light, or they paint the wrong picture. Okay. And so, without really getting into that, and we're going to talk more about that, I promise you, in the future, in the coming year, because it's really important that you understand what's going on around you. And here's the beauty of it. When you can understand what's going on around you, or what message someone is sending to you that's actually, counterproductive to your success, or that message isn't for you, then you can take better control of your identity. You will update your identity and align it with your authenticity, and something amazing will happen. This is how you become more powerful. Now, often identity, unlike authenticity, it is formed from fear. It's formed as a result of insecurity or a past experience, rather than your authentic self-expression, or you consciously choosing the identity that you want to adopt. So this is why it's important for you to pay attention to both identity and get in touch with your authenticity. Authenticity does not come from fear. Authenticity, it comes from alignment. So when you operate from your authentic self, you make clearer decisions. You communicate with conviction. You can attract the kind of people into your life that are good for you. And here's the thing. Here's my caveat. That does not mean that you will not attract some people who aren't good for you, people who are counter to your success, people that will not amplify your success. It doesn't mean these kinds of things. Okay, sometimes you can attract a person who appears to be the best thing since sliced bread, and then when you pull back the layers, you find the bread is moldy, stale. It's not for you. Okay, so okay, that's kind of a weird analogy, but it works. So, but you kind of see that you've attracted the wrong thing. Here's that's the caveat. But the beautiful part about being authentic is eventually you will snap back to who you were designed to be. Okay. And you will realize, wait a minute. You ever played this game or seen this in the magazine where, it says one of these things, it doesn't look like the other. One of these things are not like the other. So they all look identical at first glance. But then when you look a little bit closer, you'll see, oh no, this one doesn't fit. But so when you're being authentically you will realize, wait a minute, this person doesn't fit. This doesn't fit. And that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that perhaps they're not for you and they are not meant to take that, the success journey that you're on. So you have to understand about, how authenticity can help you. But here's the thing, when your identity is running the show, because a lot of us have been raised to be afraid. A lot of us have been taught to be afraid of certain types of human beings in certain positions. For example, some people are taught that you should be afraid of the police because they can hurt you, these kinds of things. So we've been taught certain things. And I'm not afraid of a police. I'm not afraid of people. Whatever's coming is coming. If I do what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do it, it'll work out one way or the other. But the point that I'm making is if you formed an identity that has kept you away from the world, in the sense that you are downplaying who you are, even your authenticity is not going to come out and it's not going to protect you. So this is what allows people to be emotionally abused and physically abused and to put up with things that they really should not put up with, things that should not even be a part of their lives. But from everything, whether it's bad, everything that appears to be bad or is actually bad, we can learn from these things. It pushes us. It's when things don't feel good or we have this kind of pain that we go through, these emotional pain or even a physical pain because if they're physically abusing you, there's something in you that's saying, this is not us. This is not who you are. Okay, this is not how life is supposed to be. That's your authentic self screaming, saying, you know what? There's better. There's something more. Your identity is what prevents you from taking action. So this is why you want to know the difference. And they both need your attention. Your authenticity, that can create opportunities for you or cause you to create opportunities for yourself. Instead of you waiting for these opportunities to show up, your identity can convince you that, well, you should wait. This is how we were taught. We were taught not to go and get it. No, we were taught not to ask. The Bible says you have not because you ask not. There's nothing wrong with asking. That doesn't guarantee the person is going to say yes, but at least you have put your desires out there. You've asked for what you wanted. So you want to pay attention to what's going on with your identity. And at this point, I just want to let you guys know, we are really going to dive deeply into setting goals the right way. So I have a workshop that's coming up. It's called Identity Powered Goal Setting. And I can tell you, it is going to really have an impact on those who attend. So I want to encourage you to take a look at that and consider attending this event. I made it such that anybody who desires to attend this because they want to go to the next level. They really believe that there are goals that they are capable of achieving and they're wondering why is it not happening. I've made this workshop such that you can attend it. So I want to encourage you to take a look. The link will be in the show notes, but in the meantime, you can go to designingyourlifetoday.com, and you'll see it there on the homepage, or go to designingyourlifeachieversacademy.com and you will see it there as well. So with that being said, let's get back to the difference, why knowing the difference really matters. Here's the thing. When you don't pay attention to your identity and you allow someone to give you an identity, and you, let's say, carry it on and you reaffirm it by constantly labeling yourself, what happens is you're working against your own potential. The thing that you really know that you're capable of doing, or you really want to do. And let's kind of break this down a little bit to money. Okay. A lot of people wanting to talk about having more money. A lot of people get upset because they think that whatever's going on politically, it's preventing them from having more money. But you know what? Sometimes there are people who get the money and they end up going right back to where they were. In other words, they get, let's say hypothetically, I don't know, $50,000, and they end up going back to being broke before they got the $50,000. Why? Because their identity does not allow for them to upgrade their lives. So it's important that you really get a clear understanding of your identity, because when the two come together, authenticity connects with the right identity, you're now in the success zone, and your success will accelerate. You stop apologizing for wanting to be you. You stop playing a role that makes everyone else feel comfortable and makes you feel uncomfortable and makes you feel small, and slowly but surely chips away at your sense of self-worth. So this is why it's extremely important that you pay attention to both, because you do end up working against your own potential. When you don't pay attention to your identity and get a clear understanding of who you are, what your identity is all about, then you know what happens. Excellence is not a big deal. We settle. We don't go the extra mile because we believe this is all there is. And that's not how it's supposed to be. We do just enough to get by. And sometimes we don't do anything at all. And then we're wondering why we're not getting the things that we desire. We wonder why we're not getting the things that we would like to have. You know what? I've coached some people, not a lot, but I've seen this a few times in all the years that I've been coaching, and I've seen people fight against their own success. When they hear the answers, they know it works, and it starts working, then they sabotage it. They come up with reasons why they can't keep moving forward. They come up with something that's wrong with them. Okay. And they will really, because emotionally, it really has an impact on them. They realize that, wait a minute, I have been living this false identity for all of these years, and something in them says, this isn't how it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to succeed like this. So let's sabotage it. Understand this. This is, sends a person back to mediocrity. And the truth of the matter is, mediocrity, there is no honor in being mediocre. I've heard people say, you know what, I'm just going to coast until it's retirement time, which retirement is really not a thing. That's actually a man-made concept. I mean, it's real because people do retire. But the reality of it is, if you're going to retire to go to something else or something more, okay, that's a different story. But we're not going to get into that. But the object of the game is when you don't really pay attention and upgrade your identity to put it in its rightful place, then no excellence comes into your life. And excellence is what opens doors for you. Excellence is what allows you to be more creative. Excellence is what inspires you to achieve your goals. And so if you're doing just enough to get by, then you shouldn't be shocked when you're not making the kind of money that you want to make. And sometimes people look at other people who are making lots of money or have a successful life, and for whatever reason, they think that those people owe them something. No one owes you anything. Whatever a person earns in their own might, in their own right, and because God blessed their hand, Okay, because they took actions and they followed the principles of success. If that person decides that they want to help someone, most likely they will help other people who are working to be a success, not helping the people who feel like they're entitled. So I hope you get the difference. See, if you adopt an identity that's been formed from fear and full of insecurity, this is where entitlement comes from. Entitlement says, take care of me. Okay. But if you can form your identity from the basis of love, and we're talking self-love, we're talking loving other people, we're talking falling in love with your calling. So we're talking all of that. If you can form your identity from that and use it to overcome whatever insecurities that have been placed into your identity, you're going to be surprised at the outcome. It's going to be so much better. There's no sense of entitlement in that. This is at that point, this is not a taker. These are the givers, and meaning I'm willing to give of my talents. Okay. My gifts and talents, and I'm going to do it with confidence. And even if sometimes I'm not as confident, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be willing to make a mistake so I can learn more. Identity says that you will succeed. Okay. And that's what it's about. And your authenticity kicks in and it helps you to communicate with conviction. As I mentioned, that's one of the things that your authentic self does. You will communicate with conviction. So as I said, when you put the two together, now they're working. There's a distinct difference between identity and authenticity. And it's important that you understand the difference. So here, I want to give you kind of one question as we wrap up. And before I go there, you guys know I always like to give you a scripture. And there's a scripture. It's Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. And in that verse, it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not man. And so this is identity, the kind of identity that you would like to adopt. Because when you think about it, a lot of times people work because they want another human being to say, well done. And that's okay. Sometimes we need to be affirmed. I think we all need that at some times. However, but when you find something to do that you're excited about, that you're called to do, and you work at it with all your might, with all your heart as to the Lord, instead of doing it just for man, okay, and that would be a job, and there's nothing wrong with a job, but my point is you're doing a job just for the sake of $1, okay, so that you can keep your head above water. Okay, that's not, first of all, it's not a wealth identity, and secondly, that's not how we're built. You are built by design to win, no matter what. And the only way that you can win and adopt that kind of identity and embrace that way of thinking is you really have to upgrade your identity. Now, as I mentioned, my identity powered goal setting workshop, we're going to go through a lot. You're going to get there are going to be some handouts that you can download and you can use, and you can complete those different handouts, and you're going to have a solid picture, or a better picture, I should say, of the kind of identity you want to adopt. We are not all the same because we have different purposes that have been given to us. So we're not all the same. Now, biologically speaking, that's another story. But the point is, when it comes to your gifts and talents, we are not the same. And so it's important that you understand what that is about. So what I was going to do was give you 2 questions to ask yourself and to tell if you're operating from identity or authenticity. And if you're operating from an identity that is rooted in success, or if you're operating from an identity that makes you feel inferior. Okay. The first one is, does this version of me feel free or limiting? Freeing or limiting? So often an identity that has been imposed on you, you feel restrictive, you feel resigned, and you make people uncomfortable who feel the exact same way because they haven't upgraded their identity. So you want to answer that question. Now, authenticity feels expansive. And so the version of you, if you feel expansive, if you feel like growing, if you feel like it's time for you to step out there and make something amazing happen, then perhaps you're on your way to upgrading your identity so that the two can work together. And I can tell you, you're going to be unstoppable. So answer that question. Does this version of me feel freeing or limiting? Another question that you want to answer is, did I choose this or was it chosen for me? Remember, in yesterday's podcast, which if you missed that episode, you want to go back and listen to that episode, authenticity versus personal identity, how knowing the difference brings success. So you want to go back and listen to that. I talk about the fact that sometimes the identity that we live by and we think this is who we are, someone else has given it to us. I mentioned it briefly in this podcast as well. You see things on television and they paint a certain picture based on race, based on gender, based on your religious beliefs. Okay, so not spiritual beliefs, but religious beliefs. There's a difference. So did I choose this or was it chosen for me? So that means you said, well, you know what? Since I was a kid, I was programmed. I was always told this is what I would be. But somewhere in you, if you're not happy with that, then that tells you, wait a minute, this identity was assigned to me by someone else. Think about some of the movie stars, some of the athletes who, when they become adults, they perform masterfully as kids. Then they become adults. All of a sudden, they do something and their world comes crashing down because there's a part of them that's been repressed. Their true identity, the identity that they want to have, but they've repressed it. So, did I choose this or was it chosen for me? That means your identity has been assigned. And the other thing is that they are not being authentic. So their authenticity is intentional. Now, we're talking about how you perform in your life. We're not talking about the biology of things. Okay. We're not going to talk about that. That's a whole nother ball game. So, with that being said, answer those two questions for yourself. And as we start to wrap up, in this workshop, I have more questions for you. But as I said, you're going to walk away with a more powerful goal setting plan or actually set your goals. You're going to have some more powerful goals that's going to keep you inspired because now they're rooted, they're part of your identity. Okay. And you're going to connect them to your authenticity. Your authenticity is going to fire you up. And before you know it, you're going to be making some great things happen. This is a part of how we do life with power. So as I say goodbye, look in the show notes and you guys can register. I believe it's coming up, not this week, but next week. And so register, you want to get registered quickly. And I can't wait to hang out with you guys because you'll be able to ask questions and be able to communicate with each other and really let's come together and create something very powerful, something very strong, something that will allow everyone to cross that finish line. And the finish line meaning the goals that they've set based on the purpose they were sent here to serve. So in the meantime, I want you guys to have a magnificent day and do life with power because you're built by design to win.